Raazu takes the maul, presents it to him.
He takes the maul in his hands. He looks it over. He says, I make this to be the weapon of a warrior of Maglubiet.
Correct. Slain in battle.
Perhaps someday you will kill somebody worth slaying.
Oh shit, got him.
He thinks he's making a snide insult because he doesn't know you no longer follow Maglubiet.
Yeah. Raazu just gives him a blank look, like, really, dude, you're not gonna get under my skin with that. You're gonna have to try a little harder than that.
He tells the rest of you that you are free to come and go through the entrance as you will. Under no circumstances are you to cross the stone bridge without being given leave by himself or Hantao to do so. And
is Hantao here, or is he elsewhere right now?
And he looks at you and sneers a little bit. He says you will be summoned when Hantao has use of you.
Raazu looks a little bit offended at that. Now he got under his skin. Now he got under her skin.
And he takes the maul and disappears back south into the smoke.
Birdie puts his hands over his eyes and goes, wow, he's a strong one, isn't he?
He's definitely the largest kobold you've seen since you've been here.
You think he's cute? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hmm?
Hmm?
Does he eat yogurt?
Yeah, good wings.
Does he eat yogurt?
And Windy will go, he has good wings, and kind of elbow Adrex like, huh? Good wings. Right, everyone?
Hmm.
What?
Where do you guys set up camp, if anywhere? Like, where are you guys going to congregate? You've got hobgoblins here. This place is Hantao's. This is where the kobolds keep to. That's their barracks.
I'd prefer if we were somewhere where we could easily see the area. So I'm thinking somewhere like right here.
Okay, so 10 feet away from the hundreds
Maybe
foot
not
drop.
Maybe not that close.
That just means the thermals are really good. I'll fly up real nice.
Yeah, there you go. I picked that spot for Windy.
Okay. You guys are approached as you're sitting there minding your own business by
That doesn't sound like us.
a southling, a human. And at first you think it's just the coloration in the light that causes him to look red. But as he gets closer, you realize, no, he just has red skin. This man has tattooed every inch of flesh visible to you. His arms, his face, his neck, and shoulders, as red as he could make it.
Guys, I'm starting to see a pattern.
I don't know, that other one sounded good. This one just kind of sounds like a tryhard.
He's wearing...
He's a dragaboo.
Did you just say dragon moo?
Dragaboo.
Oh my god.
Don't worry, McDohl, we all got it.
He's wearing black robes, and he's making a big show of walking with this long, ornate metal staff.
Look at this tryhard, yeah. Tryhard is a good word for it.
He is trying to keep his head held high as he approaches you. On his brow, he wears, for lack of a better term, a tiara of thin, twisted black metal welded together that sits upon his head. And he approaches you, and he gives a little bow and says, Lorscan Redscales welcomes the guests of the Lord Master.
I see. Raazu muses for a moment to herself before responding and says, okay, so you're Red Scales. Raazu is my name. Grodrin Raazu.
And he waits for the rest of you to introduce yourselves.
Birdie
Said
waves.
Lorquin?
Hi, I'm
Red
Adrex.
Lore scan, red scales.
Scale? Lore scan.
Otherwise known as the pattern which is formed as the wind blows over the sand.
Lore scan regards Adrex a little curiously and says, I'm surprised, but obviously gladdened that the young master has not melted upon crossing the bridge. And you can't tell if he's being sarcastic or not.
Why would I melt?
He's alluding to the fact that you're a white dragonborn.
No, it's
Okay.
I got it. Matt the player got it. Adrex clearly did.
Adrex is an idiot.
Yeah, why would Adrex melt? I mean, he's near fire all the time. Adrex, show him the fire thing.
Adrex suddenly gets very shy. I don't.
Okay. Does anybody else believe for a second?
Yeah, absolutely. No, 100%. Ajax is meeting strangers, and it's just like, oh, well, actually. I'm scared.
Is Red staying silent? Did we lose Destil? Is he gone?
So silent. So silent. Yeah, no.
No,
He's
Red just
so-
says his name and nods. That's the
Okay.
entirety of his contribution to this conversation.
After
Birdie,
giving his little jibe to Adrex, Red introduces himself and he looks you over and says, "Not to my eyes, you're not."
What about
You're-
Rolf?
You're human, too.
Yeah,
Rolf just gives him his name. He's like, you guys are bringing him down into this volcanic horror show.
So he's,
I don't know. I feel like Rolf is either going to leave us in the middle of the night or just get way into it. Like, just snap and just be like, yeah, you know what? Fuck this. This is great.
this is my punishment. Like,
I love it.
Red
I
Scales
deserve
asks
this.
if he has leave to join you for some conversation.
Sure, the more the merrier. What are you doing here?
And he takes his seat next to you. He tells you that he has the pleasure and honor of being the Lord Master's speaker south of the wall.
So why aren't you south of the wall?
Make an insight check. Do you guys like how the squares on the map don't match the squares on the table, like, at all?
That's a 21?
21?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are there squares on the map?
Yeah.
like on the outer edges.
No, you're not actually blind. Like, I know it gets hard to tell sometimes, but you know.
It's well, the squares on the table are very visible to me. I'm having a hard time spotting the ones on the map. Maybe I'm seeing the ones on the table and I'm not, or I'm seeing the ones on the map and I'm not seeing the ones on the table.
The map is on the table, Nodal.
Yeah.
I'm only seeing one grid. Where's the second grid?
On the
That's-
like it's over here on the edges. Total. See the bigger squares on the edges?
Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he's talking about.
Okay,
I'm
anyway.
pretty sure.
You got what on your insight? 18?
21.
21. He tells you that he has made a pilgrimage far to the north, so that he may bask in the glow of the Lord Master's wisdom, and receive his commands to take back in south and give to his many followers, to see that his will is spread through the human and dwarven kingdoms to the south. He sounds like a very desperate and scared man when he tells you this tall tale.
Does it sound like he's scared of the dragon or something else?
You're not really sure. Well, anybody would be scared of the dragon. That, like, if you're not scared of the dragon, you're just not, you don't have an intelligence stat.
Sure.
But he's feeding you this line of pride and honor and service. But there's definitely this tinge of just desperation to him.
Yeah, I can tell he's tattooed himself red. Alright, thanks.
Yeah. And similar to Kilar, he's very interested in what you all are doing here. He asks a lot of questions about your journeys, and specifically, he has heard that apparently the Lord Master owes you a boon. and he's extremely like this is not something the Lord Master grants often.
Well, I think it'd be more fair to say that his son said that he would. That we
Yes, that makes more sense. And what the son offers, the father is obliged to deliver.
the way you sound, it makes it sound like the father would begrudge that kind of a debt.
The Lord Master has little use for the scribblings and scrabblings of small folk. Han Tao has great compassion for the peoples beyond the domains, and from time to time, present company excluded, of course, he is known to bring dregs across the bridge. And he tells you that sometimes these dregs will very pompously ask for their boon that they've been promised by Han Tao. And some occasions, these boons are minor things that are so beneath the Master's notice that they're just granted. And sometimes the insolence with which these minor peoples think they can speak to this great dragon, he instead simply casts them into the smoke and the flames.
What would be your advice on being a member of the first group rather than the second?
Oh, he says he has no doubt that people of your quality do not exist beneath the Lord Master's notice. And he kind of then sheepishly admits, and to be perfectly honest, stories of your doings in the lands beyond the Master's reach have reached our ears.
I'd be interested to hear what you have to say about us.
The little kobold that could is Birdie's story.
He tells you that they received a visitor some months past, and he describes Bronzil Griffinheart that had come to pay. To hear Lorskin tell it, he had come to pay respect to the dragon as he was passing through his domain. And through Griffinheart, they learned of your adventures through the Underdark. And he tells you that these... Well, first he confirms with you this is not merely rumor.
No, we spent time in the Underdark. We freed several of your kind from slavery and sent them southward.
He corrects you that though the people you met may have been in human shape, that they are frail and beneath him until they wake up to the glory that is his Lord and Master. Until then, he would scarcely call them his kind.
Raazu gives him a look like, bruh.
Birdie snickers.
Birdie, make an insight check.
Uh, 13.
13. You see him bristle slightly when you snicker, but he doesn't rise to the bait. But you can tell like he's trying really hard to keep up this facade. You're starting to notice cracks throughout it.
Like,
he then says he's also heard from the kobolds. And he speaks of the kobolds that escorted you here, but also the ones you were handed off to across the bridge. That he's heard that you've done the world a great service, slaying a silver dragon on the cliffs far away to the east. This is a grand service, and no doubt the Lord and Master will not overlook it.
Raazu stone faces.
Well, Adrex will laugh at that. We didn't kill the dragon, man. Why does everyone think that?
So you didn't... Oh, that's my mistake, and I offer my apologies sincerely.
No. We keep telling everyone we didn't kill the dragon. It's not on you.
who's the one that keeps going about talking about us killing dragons? Like that. This is starting to get old.
He says it's perhaps his fault because, again, he heard the stories from the kobolds, but the kobolds, again, present company excluded, young master.
Of course.
They speak in such a low and base form of Draconic that sometimes the words aren't spoken properly.
Birdie says something low and bass in Yip Yip. And then looks at him and smiles sweetly.
And you can tell that he understood what you said, but he's pretending like he didn't to try to illustrate his point.
Raazu, I can't really think of anything super esoteric and weird that Raazu might try to say in Dragonborn that might go over his head.
So,
but Raazu wants to say something like that.
So you've heard a lot about us. Tell us about you. What have you been doing with your time here?
He tells you, well, I mean, he reaffirms his story that he's come north to receive wisdom and commands.
I'm asking essentially what's his day-to-day.
He tells you of a grand church that has been built in south of the wall in a great coastal city. That they went there and he preached to the people. And they pulled down the statues and markings and of their old gods off of the walls and raised instead a great metal obelisk to the Lord Master. And that he is very proud to say that this is the first foothold in what is to be a grand conquest of the hearts and minds of those to the south.
Raazu raises a brow and says, "Look, I spent several years in the Southlands, and what you're describing to me doesn't sound anything like the zealous monsters that would beat people for not worshiping their gods."
He immediately ignores your implication and turns to you spent time south of the wall. And he immediately asks, being a warrior of some regard, whether you have known the joy of meeting elves on the field of battle.
Nope.
Well, like, are you saying like out of character? I'm just reminding you, you did fight that one elf in the Feywilds.
Yeah, but that was for friendly sport. That wasn't.
That was a felt.
That wasn't armies clashing on the fields of battle. That was just two people.
He tells you that elves, he finds, are the hardest to move because their false traditions are much more deeply rooted in ugly history, in parts of the world that have not known the kiss of flame.
So, who do elves worship?
And he says he doesn't know anything about the lowly religions of the South.
That's probably why they won't listen to you.
But they have, and he tells you again of this grand church that he erected in this coastal city.
Do we know anything about who elves worship from our Book of Elves?
Yeah, Adrex.
I'm a resident elf expert.
Adrex knows quite a bit about this subject because, he translated that whole book.
I was gonna say, I don't know. I don't seem to have a problem with moving elves. Oh! And he holds his hand up for a high five.
So he jumps up and gives him a high five. I jump as high as I can and give him a high five.
Boom!
And Loriskin laughs. He tells you that he's delighted to find that while the reputation of your heroism has reached him, reputation of your merriment had not. And it's good to see. And at this, he starts steering the conversation towards taking his leave. Like, I'm glad to have met you and seen you face to face, and I look forward to... And it's becoming more and more clear that whatever he was hoping to accomplish just hasn't been done. And he has to find a different approach. And he's looking for a clean exit where he can now save face.
Well, I'm sure you have your plans to get back to for the next religious conquest.
And he nods.
He says, if there's anything I can do to help, make sure to let me know.
Make an insight check, Wendy.
Hmm? That's a 23.
He genuinely brightens when you say that. He tells you that as a lowly servant of the Lord Master, he wouldn't presume to ask favors of any of his guests, but he's good to hear. He's very gladdened to hear that you think of him as a friend and that you may speak on those terms. This is a very genuine, almost relieved reaction, and you get the sense that he wants desperately to ask you to do something, but there are certain formal avenues he has to make sure that he navigates correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, he takes his leave of you.
Raazu gets up
Okay.
and nods to the others, and then walks over to the Hobgoblin camp.
Okay. Is anybody else breaking from your camp?
So weren't we supposed to? Oh no, never mind. Okay.
You were told you would await word from Hanshow at this point. Go ahead and put your little markers wherever you're going here. So we got
So
Hobgoblins up
where
here.
were we told to stay? Up
in
here?
just in this
Just
area.
across the bridge.
You're allowed to leave the domain if you so choose, but you're not to cross this bridge.
Did we come from the northwest?
You came from up here. There's a bridge kind of off to the side up here.
Okay, got
Can
it.
you shrink us down a little bit?
I can.
I wasn't able to spot those ravines that were pointed out to me, so I'd like to take the time to map those out in my head so that if we have to get out of here in a hurry, I know where they are.
Okay. Make an investigation check at disadvantage.
Oh, they were pointed out to me, though.
He pointed the general direction they are, but even if you were able to see, he was essentially just pointing up into the darkness above your head.
Yeah, that's a 8.
A sate?
An 8,
An
yeah.
8. So you fly up here. The first thing you realize is that the movement of the air is very alien to you. It feels very different because it's not just the natural wind and breeze that you're attuned to. You're also dealing with thermal plumes rising from below. It's navigable, but it's like imagine like stepping onto a moving walkway that you didn't realize was moving.
Right.
And hundreds and hundreds of feet above, you start to realize where the roof of the cavern is. And it's very jagged in places and very smooth in others. Very, very unnatural. And you do find some openings, some fissures and vents in the roof, which either lead deeper into the complex of caves or lead out into open air.
All right.
Without being shown by either Kilar or one of the Urds where one of these exits is located, you're not sure you could find one on your own.
Can I... So there's a check I'd like to make.
Mm-hmm.
Wendy knows a lot about the movement of wind because of the way that she learned to see again.
Yes.
And she also knows a lot about stonework because she has proficiency in masonry tools.
Okay.
Because of that, I feel like she would look for where there's the most air flowing, because if all this hot air is pushing her up into the cavern heights, it has to be going somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And the most logical place it's going is outside.
So Wendy is not... You're not at any kind of disadvantage with seeing as far as the movement of air, but because it's not natural breeze, it has almost hallucinatory properties. Like the thermal plumes like on the edges of your vision.
You're saying I'm
warp.
seeing heat shimmers.
A little bit, yeah.
Ironic.
Make that stone tools check, though. And let's call it intelligence with your stone tools proficiency.
Alright.
Your masonry.
Oh, jeez. That's a 7.
All you're able to identify is this is not natural rock formations along the roofs of this place.
Yeah.
It wasn't worked with any kind of tools either. The rock didn't form this way, nor was it worked.
Maybe one of our dragon experts or magic experts can tell me something about that.
You do identify several places where the heat seems to be rising into these fissures, but still, without a guide to show you how to navigate them properly. Attempting it on your own, you would risk, for example, getting blasted by a random gout of gas, or
Random encounters.
becoming pinched between part of moving rock that you weren't aware of.
Sure.
So, okay, Raazu's going to Hobgoblin Town,
Yeah.
and is everybody else kind of hanging out at your camp?
It's Little Hop Town.
Yeah, that's my plan for right now.
Adrex,
Yes, sir.
you are very startled by the sound of a squeal. It sounds like a bird call, very close to the ground behind you. And spinning around, you see a very tiny Dragonborn hatchling looking at you, very, very red in coloration. Looking at you, wide-eyed, like you are a thing he's never encountered before. And huffing along this bridge in your direction, behind the hatchling, is a young Dragonborn woman, again, with red coloration, carrying another hatchling of about the same size in her arms, as though to kind of catch it, like the other one got away from her. And he's just staring at you and pointing with an outstretched finger, and is squealing just incoherently in what a 2-year-old's Dragonborn would sound like.
Dragonborn baby talk.
Is
Right.
it
So adorable.
terror or excitement?
Terror.
Okay.
Hmm.
Birdie slaps Adrex in the back of the knee and says, "Don't scare the babies."
Not scaring them. And what's your name, little guy?
Okay, now he shrieks and he runs back to his mother's skirts.
Birdie
Oh.
jumps up and slaps him in the side of the face. I said, "Don't scare the babies."
Don't hit me.
As the woman reaches the edge of the bridge, she reaches down and scoops up the child in her other arm, and he buries his head into her bosom. The other one has now caught sight of you, and again, just wide eyes, and you see him clutching her closer. As she looks the group over, and she bows her head a moment, she says, in Draconic, "My apologies. I was not aware that we had more guests."
And Adrex replies in Draconic, "No, it's quite all right. Wasn't a bother. I'm sorry I scared him. Didn't mean to." Adrex looks hurt.
She says, apologetically, that it's only that the children have not seen a dragon with white scales. And you see now she's like looking Adrex over a little bit. Nor one quite so well armed, I think.
Birdie reaches into his pack and pulls out his butt pirate trinket, and it's just like a little wind up turtle, and he hands it to the little kid.
Well, you'd have to actually approach her because she's carrying one in each arm now.
Well, I'll hold it up to her and then like approach slowly and then offer it to the one on the ground.
She looks down at you because she's quite a bit. Everybody's taller than Birdie. And she says, in a very kind of reassuring and compassionate voice to her children, in Draconic, she says, "Look, little ones, the young master seeks to pay tribute." And the two hatchlings turn their heads and look at Birdie holding this little clockwork turtle in his hands. What do you do with it?
I wind it up and put it on the ground, and it hops.
What? What? It hops?
What is this?
That's why it was a butt pirate trinket.
I'm picturing like the island of misfit toys.
Yeah.
It's a squirt gun, but I only shoot jelly. And she
I'm
stoops
picturing
down.
the toys from Sid's room in Toy Story.
Shoot, actually, you know what? Birdie has like several hundred gold of random pirate trinkets too. Like he'll dig in his pack for another like wind-up toy. This one's a rabbit that crawls on the ground.
And she places the children on the ground, and they're fascinated by the movement of these little toys.
Birdie likes little wind-up toys.
She looks back at you all, and she introduces herself as Miquen. She is Hantao's wife, and these are the young princelings.
Hi, I'm Adrex.
They have no interest in Adrex anymore. They are fascinated by these little toys. The
Birdie is
princelings,
playing with them.
the princelings are Kangsad and Kilcax. Yeah, figure that out. All of these names, by the way, courtesy of FantasyNameGenerators.com.
Kangsad and what?
Kilcax.
Okay.
She says that she's seen the other tribute that you've brought, and it is a weapon of great beauty and strength. She tells you that the Lord Master has received it very gratefully.
Well, that's good. It's good to hear.
By this time, the two hatchlings have scooped up the toys. And she's reached down and she takes each one of them by the hand. And she tells you that it's time for the princelings to begin dreaming. But that she looks forward to conversing with all of you at a later time.
Birdie waves enthusiastically at the little children.
As they take your toys away.
Oh, it's fine. They were gifts.
You don't give something to a dragon and hope to get it back.
Right. Like, I know.
That was adorable.
Do they sleep on a pile of toys?
You have no idea because she enters this house and it's fairly dark inside. Also, you're not there, so. Raazu,
Hey.
you approach this small group of hobgoblins, and they stand at attention as they see you approach. Are you wearing any kind of insignia or identifying mark of the Black Wolves?
No.
Okay.
Raazu left that behind a long time ago.
And yeah, they stand at attention as they're trained to do. And they regard you as you approach, but they don't say anything.
Raazu gives a field gesture that she comes in peace.
So the Black Wolves' victory over the Quiet Bones. This was well over 10 years ago. The question is this a battle that Raazu fought in personally? Or is this something she would have heard about during her training after the fact?
This would be something that she's heard about in her training, rather than she never took part in that.
Okay. Is that because she was too young, or because she was stationed elsewhere? I don't have any idea how old Raazu's supposed to be.
Probably because she was stationed elsewhere. Like at this point, it probably would have been. That would have happened a couple of years before Raazu's capture.
Okay. And how do you greet these hobgoblins?
Raazu says, I'm Raazu, champion of Osprey. Might I join your camp?
One of them cranes his neck over your shoulder back where your companions are camped very close by, and kind of quizzically looks back at you and says, "We have no leave to stop you."
Raazu gestures to them. Don't mind them. They're mostly harmless.
Well, it was more a look like, you've got your own camp. What do you need ours for?
Well, it's to be perfectly honest. I've haven't run into many hobgoblins lately that haven't tried to kill me, so it's kind of refreshing to be around people who aren't trying to kill me for once.
One of them says, that perhaps you should not jump to conclusions. You've only just met, after all. After you've been here for a few moments, getting this really chilly reception, another hobgoblin comes from the northern bridge, exchanges some words with the Kobold sentry standing there, and then approaches the hobgoblin camp. This one is very clearly he's in charge. He's the leader of their little squadron here. And he's wearing plate mail, tinted red, and the crest at one point was the sigil of the Quiet Bones, but you see that it's been clawed through grievously. And then the armor was worked so that this damage was incorporated into the insignia he now bears. And the other hobgoblins stand at attention as he approaches.
Raazu follows suit.
Okay. And he looks you over, up and down. Looks back at the others and says, "Gentlemen, do we have a new recruit?"
Raazu shakes her head, says, "No, I'm not looking to join your troop. I'm merely passing through looking for information."
He says, well met, Raazu. I am Hudron. I lead the Quiet Bones in His Majesty's service."
Quiet Bones. Raazu muses over that for a minute and says, "It's been a few years, but from what I had heard, the Quiet Bones have been completely wiped out."
"You have heard lies." And he leaves it at that.
It wouldn't be the first time hobgoblins have lied to me.
He then asks of your origins. What tribe do you hail from? Because he doesn't. You can tell that he's looking at this. What kind of colors do you bear, if any?
Raazu hasn't had the opportunity to take on any kind of new colors or anything like that.
Okay.
The only thing that she would have would be, well, not even that. Raazu just simply says, gestures over to the camp where the rest of the party, where the rest of the PCs are, and says, "They're my clan, basically."
And he looks at them, and he nods and says that he sees the wisdom in that, but they did not give birth to you, and they did not train you.
No, they did not.
So who did?
Raazu takes in a slow breath, and then says, "The Blackwell Squadron."
She's like, "Yeah, it was the... I'm sorry, what?"
Yeah, basically.
And you see his eyes narrow. You see the other hobgoblins grip their weapons. Their knuckles clench.
I expected that response.
He says that you may rest easy. Unless the Lord Master gives his order, we shall not raise our blades to you.
I cut my ties with the Black Wolf long ago, when they left me for dead.
Make an insight check.
In the southern lands. Ooh, wow. That's a 21.
Okay. If there was anything left of the Quiet Bones, they would, of course, be the bitterest of enemies. It would not be enough to tell them, "Oh yeah, all my friends killed you guys years ago, but that's behind me. I left them." That wouldn't wash.
Yeah.
But these hobgoblins are so fiercely loyal to the Red Dragon that you're pretty sure what he's telling you is the truth. Unless they're ordered to stand against you, they won't.
Raazu nods and gets a little and relaxes a little bit more, and starts conversing with them, and starts swapping stories, whatever they want to talk about. Raazu's interested to hear about it.
Don't. They're not stonewalling you, but any conversation you have them is very terse and only surface level cordial.
Mhm.
As far as information about like how are you guys here after we literally killed all of you, they're not forthcoming about that at all.
Well, I mean, it stands to reason that at least some of them might have survived and made their way north. But how they ended up in the service of a dragon, that's got Raazu a little puzzled. But she doesn't press for those kind of details.
Okay.
At this point, she's just trying to start establishing a rapport to where she might be able to get the answer to those questions down the road.
As you're here conversing with him, from time to time, a couple of the kobolds have reason to come over, and they exchange a few quick words in Draconic with the commander.
Which Raazu understands.
The kobolds call him Kiktuk, not Hudrun. And with your 20, whatever that turns into on your insight, you can tell every time this happens, he kind of physically moves in a way to try to block your sight of this kobold. Like he wants you to not be privy to this information. The kobolds are not calling him by the name that he gave you. You're not sure why, but you can tell that he doesn't want you to know this. And at this point, after Windy and Raazu return to the camp, after another hour or so, you receive word from one of the kobolds that Han Tao will be delighted to receive you. And he begins escorting you across the stone bridge.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
You guys meet on this central island with several other bridges leading off in the distance. And in the center is a hexagonal, smooth black platform sloped on some of the edges. And Hantao stands in the center of it with a small regiment of his Dragonborn soldiers as well. And he clasps his hands together and says, "It's been quite some time. I was wondering whether or not my friends would ever accept my invitation."
Raazu smiles and says, We didn't feel it too important. We didn't feel it too.
We got lost.
Small pleasantries are not a reason you go into into such a powerful lord's domain, and we didn't feel that it was necessary to call upon your hospitality just for pleasantries.
It's very well. And he begins asking stories about your adventures since you last parted.
And Red will actually talk up here and very matter-of-factly state the things that we've done. Let's see. We served aboard a pirate ship for a while. We killed some Kraken cultists, which seems pretty good. We visited Aarakocra Monastery.
Raazu died.
Yeah,
We died a lot,
Raazu,
but then we came back.
Birdie.
Birdie
Raazu
went
shoots
blind.
Somebody
See?
says that.
Point.
Oh, that was before we entered the Underdark, too, right? We entered the Underdark, we freed some slaves, which I believe you've become a company to at least one of them.
He says that he's had the pleasure of meeting Bronzel Griffinheart when he was traveling through their borders, that he found the man very delightful and very knowledgeable, and extended an invitation. That Bronzel stayed here for several weeks before moving on.
And we dislodged some pretty vile giants from a dam up north, or east of here. So all in all, not bad.
He apologizes for not coming to see you sooner, that his time has been taken up by a somewhat urgent matter
I heard talk of something about metal men.
And he nods. And when he does, you kind of see his cheerful facade break a little bit. Like, this is... Just the mention of this metal man is causing him some measure of stress. He asks if you've had the pleasure of meeting his lady wife.
I don't think we've been formally introduced.
Look at Adrex.
Yeah, we have met the kids. They're adorable. Cute kids.
And he clutches his fist to his chest and says that one day they will grow to be strong warriors.
Adrex nods.
He inquires as to the nature of your visit. You're not here to exchange pleasantries, then what have you come here to do?
The boon that you offered, that you preferred for us before, regarding your father, it's been requested that we come to collect on that boon, but we are not the ones that are going to be collecting on it.
He seems to not understand what you mean.
And Raazu will explain that the captain of the ship that we served on has requested that we call this favor in on his behalf.
And you see his expression sour some. And he tells you that a boon offered as payment from our Lord Master, from my Lord Father. It's not a trifle to be traded as though a commodity.
I did feel uncomfortable making the arrangement, but he's the sort of person that holds all the cards and makes it so you cannot that refusing him would be a very dire mistake.
It's hard to argue with a man when you're several leagues out at sea and there's no land in sight.
One of the Dragonborn standing next to Han Tao just blurts out, "Is it any easier to argue with a dragon when you stand in the middle of his mountain?" Han Tao shoots him a very angry look, and he pipes down.
No, it's a fair question.
We're trying our best.
Maybe not. I have an idea. May I speak with my companions for a moment, Hantel? I sort of assumed something like this might happen.
Han Tao tells you that it's not for him to judge the nature of this boon. You will stand before his Lord Father yourselves, and he will pass judgment on you then.
Just one moment. So what I think we can do is we can just tell Captain Eyes that in order to collect his boon, he sends word to one of us, and then with the instructions for what he wants, and then we come here and ask the dragon for it ourselves.
Birdie crosses his hands in an X and goes up to Red and says, "I really don't want to come back here. I've told you, asking dragon for things is bad. You don't do it. I didn't want to come here in the first place."
Didn't we try that though? Didn't we try to come up with ways of just oh, why don't we come up with the boon idea, then we can go seek it?
No, what Captain Eyes said is that he wanted a meeting with this dragon, and it was up to us to set it up.
I thought we were supposed to just simply send him instructions on how to collect his boon when he needed it.
That's what Captain Eyes said.
Yeah.
He gave you a magic.
So I could write onto that scroll that he gets in contact with one of us through some sort of magic or another one of these pieces of parchment, and then we will, with the instructions for the boon, and we'll deliver it to him. That way we don't have to deal with...
Assuming the dragon doesn't decide to throw us in the lava when we ask. Birdie is incredibly nervous now. He's wringing his hands, and he no longer wants to be here.
I mean, that avoids us having the presumptuousness to tell the dragon who has to give him orders. We can just present it as our own idea whenever it comes up.
that the plan?
That'll work unless the dragon figures out we're tricking it.
We're not tricking him.
Tricking it.
Will the dragon see it that way?
Oh.
Which would you rather? Would you rather the dragon? Would you rather, when we come back, worry about whether the dragon sees it that way, or ask the dragon for this outrageous favor now?
Why don't we just
The more
tell
outrageous
Captain?
one.
Why don't we just write Captain Eyes a letter and say, "Sorry, the dragon said non-transferable." The coupon is non-transferable. I apologize. And then let's ask for Adrex another flaming sword, and then go about our business and get out of here.
That sounds like
You're
a cool
just trying to bribe Adrex.
Yeah.
I think trying might be an understatement there.
Birdie is like, he's on the verge of hyperventilating. He wants to go. He does not, like, he is super upset now. Like that on the prospect, like, we have, like, angering the dragon.
I think Birdie is onto something.
No.
No?
No, I don't think so.
And at this point, you hear Hans Hal behind you say, "My friends, my lord father is aged and wise, but he is not patient."
Are we meeting now?
Oh yeah, that's happening.
So,
Well, ooh, let's just ask him that our boon is for him to render aid at a later date to this captain. That's the boon we want. Let's
I
word
guess
it that
we're not
way.
much of a choice at this point.
Like, we'll word it that way, and then hopefully we don't get thrown in the fire.
I disagree with that, but
We're
can
not
put it
going
a
to be
little more-
thrown in the fire.
Birdie slaps Adric's knee and says, "Don't jinx us!
Why do you do that? That hurts when you do that.
You're gonna jinx us. He's gonna, oh my god."
okay.
All right, Hontau, and Red will start moving as if to follow Hontau wherever he's going.
Okay.
So tell me about
Raazu
these
will
metal
go
men as we're going along.
And
Hans
Hans
will
Hal
go along with Red.
grunts in response and says that he heard that you came across one wounded, that you finished it off.
It's a little overstating it. It sort of it exploded and everything. It stopped moving.
It did its best to attack us, even though it killed itself. So
Yeah, its
they
arm
certainly
was,
don't lack for conviction.
its arm was swinging with intent at us when we came up on it.
He says that the metal man presents who he calls Student 9, whatever the draconic word is for Student 9. He says that he's arrived and presents a puzzle which he feels is dangerous to traverse.
How's a puzzle dangerous to traverse?
Is Wendy picturing, or rather, is Raazu picturing like an actual like wooden puzzle?
Not quite, but from what it sounds, it's like some kind of conundrum. But how can an exercise of thought be dangerous?
There's very little that's quite that dangerous, Raazu.
Well, like, what if it's like a riddle, and if you get it wrong, they cut your head off? That's dangerous.
Hantow holds his arm out and brings his company to a halt. By this point, you guys have made it kind of this far into the cave, and you see a sharp left turn into a much darker area. Hantow asks you all if you like to hunt. There are not
Yeah.
dense forests in these areas, but I know some places within a day's march that have particularly good game.
Yeah, I'm all about hunting. Huntling's the thing I do. Adrex flips an axe in his hand.
And he nods and he says, "Perhaps, then, time permitting, we may spend a day together."
Sure. Sounds like fun.
He's posing this question to all of you, not just Adrex.
Raazu nods.
Adrex volunteers to be the most dangerous game. Almost assuredly.
He
Red
nods.
just nods.
He nods and says, "May my Lord Father give us leave, then." And he continues bringing you deep into the dragon's cave. This central chamber here is illuminated with just an orange glow. There's no obvious lava fissures here. There's no obvious source of the glow. There's no fire burning. There's no torchlight. But the cave is very quiet, whereas you can always hear just the din of roiling molten rock and the bursts of gas and the sounds of tremors in the rock around you. When you step into this cave, it's very, very quiet. You have to pass beyond another path leading off to the south here, guarded by a contingent of Dragonborn, and you also see heavy iron bars, like a portcullis, closes it off. Han Tao leads you this far north, and then he calls into the cave beyond. "My Lord Father, as requested, I have brought your guests to speak to you. They have paid tribute, and they have shown no harm to your walls or your people." And then he stands aside, and you all see, just in the blackness beyond, two large red eyes burning in the darkness open up and regard you. It's very difficult to say anything, but they regard you maliciously.
When does Birdie scream and run?
After we come back from our 15-minute break.